Howdy, everyone. Welcome back to another Entertainment Exposed right here on Left of Straight Podcast with our very special guest host, Mr. David Reddish. It is the holiday season, the first week of December already. Thank you so much for joining with us over the last few weeks. We appreciate you. You can always catch us live here every Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and catch the replays on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and so many other places. David Reddish, how the heck are you, my friend?
Hello, Scott. I am doing well. It's great to see you as always. How was your holiday?
It was very nice. I got to go to my cousin's, like I told you, very low key. Didn't do too much else and just decorated the house. I got my house decorated for the short 3 weeks of Christmas that there is this year. So took care of that. Didn't put a lot up, but I got a tree and the mantle on the fireplace and things like that. How about yours?
I mean, it was delightful. I hung all my floating candles. I do floating candles in my living room at Christmas time, which is a little Harry Potter-rific. I liked Harry Potter before J.K. Rowling lost her mind. We don't need to go into that mess right now. But I do find that floating candles add a little bit of atmosphere to the room. And I had a lovely Friendsgiving with my friends. The food was all very, very good. The company was better. We all drank a lot of wine and a special house Thanksgiving cocktail. We told our favorite Thanksgiving stories from our childhoods and years past. The big, I think, difference to me was my friend who made the turkey added jalapenos to the stuffing, which I don't know about you. I've never had jalapeno stuffing before, but it's not what I was used to or
I
expecting.
don't know if I would be a fan. I'm not a big fan of anything hot. I
No.
like spicy. I don't like hot. And jalapeno flavor is okay. So I don't know if I'd be a fan or not, to be honest.
Definitely had some bite to it. And the joke was, he said, well, I kept giving you the mild version. And I'm going, this is the mild version. I'm sweating. Like, this is wild right now. But it was great. Everybody liked the cheese ball that I made. I talked last week about my mom's cheese ball. That was a big hit. And yeah, it was delightful. Then had to go right back to work on my political show and spend the weekend working on a new fur coat. So that was all very exciting.
Very, very nice. Well, I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about this week. I did not think anything would knock off Wicked, but the gay Twitter and thing is going crazy over the new hockey series all of a sudden. So I guess we can start with Rivalry here. It's a heated rivalry, of course. It's blowing up the internet, my friend.
I mean, that's not surprising. I have to confess, I have not seen much of the show yet, but I have seen it's blowing up gay Twitter. Namely, the screenshots are, which I guess should not come as any big surprise to anybody at this point. I've never seen a gay hockey show. I know gay hockey fans, they're cool. But I think it's interesting because we talk so much about representation and we talk about, the kinds of stories we want to see. But when you get something like a show like Love, Victor that I thought was just delightful, or a show like Sense8 that I thought was so cool, people tend to gravitate more towards the soft core as opposed to the well plotted and well acted. Whatever that says about the viewing audience, I'll let you draw your own conclusions there. Good for the folks associated with the show. It's always good to have a hit, and it's always good to see that gay content does well. Some kind of gay content, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, as you said, it was blowing up the internet, internet at least. It's reignited controversy again over straight actors playing gay roles because they're being asked their sexuality, which the showrunner just put a stop to that and said, really, it's none of your business and shouldn't be important. But
Exactly.
the two stars, Hudson Williams and Connor Story, haven't really said much about it, nor should they have to.
Exactly.
But it's been really kind of bringing all that big debate back to the forefront again. I don't know what you've heard about it.
I mean, I haven't heard much about it in this instance specifically, but this is something that I've reported on. This kind of debate I've reported on for many, many years. And I think it's a stupid conversation, if I can be completely blunt. I don't care what an actor does off screen. I care what an actor does on screen. And if that actor can convince me he's gay, great. If he can convince me he's straight, great. Whatever is best for the show. We talked a couple of weeks ago about Kiss of the Spider-Woman and where I thought casting a gay actor actually hurt the movie because he was not well cast in the part. I would think that the movie would have succeeded much better if they would have focused solely on who is the best actor for this job, full stop. I've seen plenty of straight actors convince me that they are gay characters. I've seen plenty of gay actors convince me they're straight characters. I think the fact that this is sort of a special circumstance in that it's like, why do we care who the actors are screwing? This has nothing to do with what's going on screen. It has nothing to
Right.
do with the show. And in what other context would we ever be talking about this? Ever. It's a stupid, stupid conversation. And I know people say, well, representation, we want gay actors to get work. And it's like, okay, so hire gay actors that can be good for the job. If you have to say I'm a gay actor and therefore I should have first dibs on this part, it's probably because you're not very good. And that's just the sad reality of this. And I know a lot of people will be angry at me for saying that, but act better would be my my first suggestion, and focus more on what you can do on screen and less off screen.
Agree 100%. I actually even got into a kind of an interesting and fun conversation about it yesterday with someone
Yeah,
saying the funny thing when you think about it is we're doing all this controversy over are they or not they, and should straight actors play queer roles. But this story, I mean, this is a gay showrunner, but the books this is based on, Heartstopper, Red, White, and Blue, Royal Blue, they
yeah,
were all written by female authors, right?
yes,
And I think the dirty little secret is a lot of these shows are made for when they're consumed mostly by women, not just
I
by
think that's
gay
true
men.
too.
We're the ones that talking about it, but it's a huge commercially successful with straight women through some fantasy sequences. So I think that part of the equation's never even brought into it. So
Yeah,
interesting conversations to be had for sure.
certainly, certainly. And my bottom line in this is I want to see great gay actors working, full stop. But and I want to see great performances as gay characters, and I don't really care who's doing it. So there you have it.
Exactly. Well, like we said last week, we're lucky enough to get a lot of these screeners. I haven't done
Yeah,
screeners of this, and I can't afford to subscribe to 8,000 streaming services,
right.
so HBO Max is not one of the ones that I do. There's, trailers coming. I emailed in for some, so we'll see that eventually, but I'm glad a gay series is getting the recognition. It's titled Rivalry. It's on HBO Max. The first 2 episodes have dropped, and I think it'll be coming out every Friday for the next few weeks. So if you're looking for that, go ahead and look at it. It has a lot of buzz around it. One of the fun things, of course, is the actors that are portraying the 2 leads. They've gone from 10,000 followers a month and a half ago to 130,000 each, basically since the Thanksgiving weekend. So they're getting a lot of play at it, so good for them. But what's the story you'd like to hit, my friend?
Well, speaking of internet controversies and speaking of recent films, we've talked a bit about Wicked for Good on the show. Universal finally sent me a screener of it, so I was able to watch the thing. And I have many, many thoughts, which we can get to in a moment. But the thing that's getting a lot of attention this week is the actor that plays the character Bach. Ethan Slater is his name. He has been the victim, if indeed victim is the right word. There's been an internet rumor going around that he did some gay porn back in the day. There is a clip circulating of him. I believe he's only in his underwear and he's jacked. He's super worked out, staring longingly at his male roommate. And there's some terrible dialogue. And then it cuts to black. The rumor going around, somebody added a porno logo to this of a major porn studio, suggesting that he was doing gay porn before his successful acting career took off. That is false. I have been able to confirm that the clip that is circulating is actually from a short film he did when he was an actor starting out. I believe he was even still in college at the time. It was something like an 11-minute film, and this brief clip was lifted from it because out of context, it certainly suggests something else than what the film was about. I don't even think he was playing a gay character in the film. I think he was just playing somebody's roommate and was probably poorly directed with some awkward dialogue. But good for him for working out. And he, of course, now has been dating Ariana Grande for the past 2, I think, almost 3 years. So he's
Very
having a
interesting.
fine little
I've not
moment.
heard that part of it yet. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and let it be said, he's very good in Wicked for Good. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about. He gives a very, very good performance in what, in my view, is kind of an underwritten and awkward character. It's something that's always been endemic to the material. As we've talked about on the show before, if you know Wicked, and the show's been out for 20 years, so I don't think we should be putting spoiler warnings on this exactly.
Right.
If you know Wicked, you know that the character Bach, who is a munchkin, who is involved in this love triangle between Glinda and Nessarose, the Witch of the East. He is transformed into the character we know as the Tin Woodsman. That is not in the novel Wicked. The character of the Tin Woodsman is in the novel Wicked, but he is a separate character entirely. It was always kind of an odd decision, in my view, to sort of merge the two, except that maybe in Wicked the musical, they want it to be tied even more closely to the Wizard of Oz than it already is. Let it be said, Ethan in the new film does some of his best work in the role. I think the character is underwritten, but they really find a way to underline the tragedy of his character and kind of the tragedy of Elphaba herself. I think in this second chapter of the film, the second half of the show, they have always kind of had a hard time figuring out what to do with her and what her plot actually is, because she kind of has to do too much, and so she ends up doing too little. That's a very hard thing to sort of articulate, but if you see the film, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's one of the hallmarks of the book that everything she does, she kind of screws up. And so the idea of wickedness is not just that she's misunderstood, it's that she is squandering her own potential and constantly getting in her own way, which makes her less likable, but it also makes her more sympathetic on some level. The idea that she sort of casts this spell to save Bach's life and he becomes the Tin Woodsman in the film is interesting. And the way it's portrayed in the movie, I think it's handled much better than it is in the stage version, where it is much more tragic and underlines her tragedy as much as Bach's. So I think the film, again, is very strong, but a lot of the problems that people have with it are problems that are just endemic to the material and the fact that the second act has always been weaker than the first.
Right. Yeah, which we talked about quite a bit, but I'm glad you
Yeah.
got to see it. And yeah, I agree on all of that. And it was good. I mean, I remember seeing people that did not know the parallels. I mean, a lot of people have never
Yeah.
seen it, didn't understand the parallels between how they did it with Wicked Wizard of Oz. And this was one that, as you said, was not part of the book for the Tin Man, but the way they did it kind of helped bring back the story. So it's interesting. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good. And I mean, it's an extremely well-made movie. It's extremely well directed, has some of the best production design. It has production design that is kind of on par with The Wizard of Oz, which is one of the most important
Right.
movies ever made in terms of art direction, production design, costume design, makeup styling. And in terms of special effects, Wicked for Good has great special effects, but it's going to be up against Avatar for the Oscar this year. And as we all know, James Cameron loves to get his movies special effects Oscars. So I
Right.
wouldn't be betting on that one. The early buzz on this third Avatar movie, if indeed anybody actually cares about it, I don't understand why we're still talking about Avatar, because it's one of the, I don't know anyone that says, oh, that's my favorite movie, or oh, these characters so identify with them. It's more just like a weird theme park ride that people take in movie theaters every few years, where they see some cool action sequences and some cool special effects that would be better suited by a story where people actually gave a damn about the characters. I don't
Right.
really care about the world of Avatar. I feel like it's sort of being thrust upon us at this point and is not nearly as groundbreaking as it was when it came out with new kinds of motion capture technology, new kinds of 3D technology, back in 2009. I cannot get myself excited for it, even though Sigourney Weaver is apparently amazing in it, and I'd watch her in just about anything at this point. We don't really get to see her on camera. We just kind of see her motion capture, and of course we can debate
Right.
how much of that is a real performance and how much of it is created by the special effects artists. But that's, the big holiday movie. I would not be surprised if Wicked actually is able to hold its own at the box office against Avatar 3, because I just don't feel like Disney's been promoting it enough, and I don't feel like there's enough interest in it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. As you know, I like to follow the numbers and everything. And we had a huge opening with Zootopia this past weekend. And I'm the
Yeah,
same way. Avatar doesn't really float my boat. It's Avatar Fire and Ash, I think, is the
yeah,
name of this one coming out. And it's just not my thing to see. The first one was interesting. Second one I had no desire to see and did not see. This one I probably will not see. They are hoping that it will kind of help boost the box office. Even with Zootopia's crush last week,
yeah,
it made the industry feel good, especially with the China grosses,
yeah.
but they're still barely they've been losing ground every week to last year. They were doing so good for the first half of the year, but the second half of the year has not been great as far as box office
No.
grosses go, so be
Well, they've been
interesting to
putting
see
out
what.
duds. That's what happens.
Right.
Frankly, you put out strike movies and you put out mediocre movies, and people just don't care.
Very, very true. I think we should get back into we did talk last week about Stranger Things opening on
Yeah,
TV. They had a great, they opened with 4 episodes and it did a fantastic, like 56 million views.
Yeah, it
That's a
crashed
59.
Netflix. They crashed Netflix, which I don't think has ever happened before, where the entire
Right.
service went down.
Just amazing. The numbers were
Yeah.
fantastic. I have not seen it yet. I will, but we did talk about the will and the gay of it all, and I guess that coming into terms with his homosexuality, which we said was gonna be a main part of the season, and it has started that way, turns
Yes.
out to be part of his superpower. It's what unlocks his superpower pretty much this season.
I mean, I have seen the 4 episodes, so I can speak to this. I wouldn't say his sexuality unlocks his superpower, but they do deal with both Robin and Will's sexuality. Robin played, marvelously by Maya Hawke, the daughter of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke. And then Noah Schnapp, who started in this part when he was something like 11 years old and is now in his mid-20s. All these kids have grown up so much. He's grown into a very good actor. He probably
Right.
has the most to do this season that he's ever had, and he does it very, very well. He's very good at playing the insecurity and ambiguity when it comes to Will's sexuality. And there are some marvelous, marvelous scenes where Robin, who is actively dating women now, sort of sees what he is going through and is trying to sort of get him out of the closet. I continue to be amazed that the Duffer brothers are doing such a marvelously sensitive and well-written job with this subject. It's a fantasy. We've talked about this on the show before, where this would
Right.
not actually be happening in 1987 in rural Indiana. I can't imagine anybody would be saying, we love you, and the cute boy at school wants to go on a date with you. But this is a fantasy show, and it's good to see that queer people are part of the fantasy, and they get the same kind of fantasy adventures that the straight people get. That's, in my view, is true representation because it's equitable representation. And it also helps that the show is great this season. The
That's
first
what I've
couple
heard.
episodes, yeah.
That's great to hear, and I also like the Duffer Brothers and Netflix are so good at marketing. The thing I did
Yeah.
read this week is they are going to show the season finale in theaters
Yes.
and not charge for it. The theaters are
Oh,
you're gonna buy a voucher for the concessions from the theater, so they're gonna make all the money off it. Netflix and Duffer's not gonna make a dime out of it, but they're
wow.
gonna have a couple-day event to watch the finale. I think that's such a great marketing.
That is. And I mean, this speaks to our earlier point. You talk about the second half of the year having a sluggish movie box office. The movies have to compete with shows like Alien Earth. They have to compete with shows like Stranger Things. They have to compete with everything that these streaming services are putting out, which are now very, very cinematic. They have cinema directors. Frank Darabont, who directed The Shawshank Redemption, directed an episode of Stranger Things just because he's a fan of the show. You have this incredible talent now working in streaming, which I think is its own medium. It's not fair to call it television exactly, and it's not fair to call it cinema either. It's kind of its own mix of the two. And it doesn't require people to have to sit through 45 minutes of ads before a movie starts, or to pay huge exorbitant prices to take a family of 4 to go see a movie that is then going to be mediocre. Stay on the couch and watch Stranger Things, because you get more of that but for less money, and it's much higher quality than, I
Well,
don't know, some of the box office duds we've seen this year.
well said.
Yeah.
What's next on your radar, my friend?
Well, before we deviate too far from Stranger Things, I want to give a shout out to lesbian icon appearing on the show this season, Miss Linda Hamilton of Terminator fame, Sarah Connor,
Nice.
the OG, the woman that every lesbian falls in love with when watching those movies. And
Right.
I think many a gay boy, if their moms are anything like mine, she kind of wanted to be Sarah Connor after she saw Terminator. My mom doesn't even like science fiction. She doesn't like R-rated movies, but Terminator 2 was a seminal moment in her life because she wanted to be Linda Hamilton. That was a
Nice.
big deal for her, and it inspired her to become very, very athletic. So I love Linda Hamilton. I think she's a very underrated actress. I would watch her in just about anything. Some people have said she's miscast this season. I don't think that's true at all, because I think there is a major twist with that character coming that they have already sort of set up. We can talk about that more when the next batch of episodes drops in a few weeks for Christmas. The spacing out of the season, it's I think a clever thing Netflix is also doing to keep interest in the show going and to boost their numbers over a longer period of time.
I can't wait to talk about that. I did not realize Linda Hamilton in it. One of my favorite television series of all time, her and the great Ron Perlman and
Beauty and
Beauty
the
and the
Beast,
Beast. I
man.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, just such a
Written by
great
George R.
actress.
R. Martin, who went on to do Game of Thrones. I don't know how
Yeah.
many people put that together. I remember when that show was on, and I actually revisited it not that long ago. And it's so funny because I swear it's such a soap opera. It's a delightful show, and it has lots of cool fantasy elements that nobody else was kind of doing at the time, and two great performances by Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman. But it's also kind of, I think, about women who are in love with their dogs, because the whole idea of the show is that Vincent is this animal man, and the two of them can never have sex. They have to be completely platonic, because if they have sex, it would be this abomination, and he would go feral and he would tear Linda Hamilton's character to pieces. Something they flirt with on the show, incidentally. But rewatching it, I was like, yeah, this is a show that is aimed at women who are in love with their pets. There's something, George R. R. Martin has, I think, a very twisted sense of humor and has a thing for sexual kink. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you know what I'm talking about, people. Everybody in that show, it's like a weird kink porno fantasy, which is part of why I can't get into it. But it's always been there. I love that he's now considered this great luminary, but he's kind of a lurid soap writer from television. Good for him for making a fortune.
There you go.
On the subject of
moving
fantasy,
on, next one.
yeah, next one. On the subject of fantasy, I attended a very interesting stage show opening night at the Montalban Theater here in LA. Show called The 20-Sided Tavern. And this is possibly the most unique theatrical experience I've ever seen. So this is an improv comedy show based on the game Dungeons and Dragons, which of course needs no introduction at this point. And the actors actually act out a game that they play on stage. So they have all these costumes, they have all these props, and they have their 20-sided dice that, use if you're playing a big tabletop role-playing game like this. And the audience also, they use their phones to interact and direct what the characters are going to do, how the scenarios are going to play out, if they win a battle, if they lose a battle. It's very, very interesting. And it speaks to the improv skill of the actors that they make this thing very, very funny, very sexually amorphous, which, again, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is a huge queer game. Not that anybody talks about that too much, but queer people have always been drawn to it. And particularly people who like to experiment with gender and sexual fluidity and all of these things, because they're allowed to play a character of a different gender, or a character that's maybe more sexually fluid or has different sexual proclivities. Last night, and the show changes every week, every night, as you might expect, because they draw new cards every night, they cast new dice, and so the entire plot changes. In addition to having several openly gay cast members on the stage, last night the characters were two dwarves in a trench coat, sort of stacked on one another. That was one of the characters throughout the show. There was another sort of very effeminate wizard, and then an old lady sorceress who was played by a man in drag through the entire show. It's that kind of experience. I will say there were a lot of Dungeons & Dragons fans who came in costume to sort of cheer on the actors. They were very, very into it. So I think anybody who likes fantasy or plays D&D, you're going to get a lot of love out of this game, a lot out of this theatrical experience. You're going to have a great time. It's very funny. The date that I took, he was laughing the entire time. And like I say, it's very interesting the way that the audience sort of shapes the story. It's a very cool mix of sort of scripted and fantasy and improvisation. And my hat goes off to the actors. They have a full cast. They kind of rotate every night, so you never really know who you're going to see. My hat goes off to the actors because they had a very, very difficult job, but they made it very, very funny and very fantastic. And so if you're into that kind of thing, this is a new tour that's kicking off. They're going to, where are they going to? Scottsdale, I think, next. Scottsdale, Dallas, West Lafayette, Indiana, and Fayetteville, Arkansas. So if you're anywhere in those areas, if you like fantasy, you're going to want to check out the 20-Sided Tavern. It's a very, very unique experience.
That sounds amazing. I love the premise. I mean, it's such a hard genre to begin with to have. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough in LA, we talked about the Westwood Theater. I used to go, UCLA had a great improv group.
Yeah.
Of course, the groundlings there. So you've been there. There's that high caliber, but it can go really bad. A bad improv.
I've been to those shows
too. Go downhill quickly. So that's always kind of fun. But I'm glad. That sounds amazing.
It's definitely very unique, very, very, very cool. And I encourage people to check it out for sure.
Hey, I want to take a second to give a shout out to a friend of mine, and you probably know him from the community there in LA, but Duke's Downloads is back up, and that's a podcast, redeeming his podcast from, now I'm blanking on his name. Why am I blanking on his name? Belinda Carlisle's son, Duke.
Duke Mason.
Thank you, Duke Mason. become a friend of mine through my podcast and everything. Fantastic. He's very politically involved. He's done
Yeah.
these Duke downloads and had some amazing podcast guests, both political and not. He is restarting his podcast again. So today it just launched with his first 2 episodes out. One kind of explaining what's going on, and the second one with my good friend that we've talked about, Greg Cope White,
Yeah.
who wrote the Pink Marine, which the Boots series is on. And I'm talking to Greg actually next week, and we're going to have on our show in a couple of weeks to talk to him
Oh,
about
great.
Boots. But yeah, so I love Duke. His mom is Belinda Carlisle. He's been a very good friend. He's lived in West Hollywood for quite a long time now. And just a big shout out, congratulations to him, because I've really loved his podcast. You can check out his YouTube channel and wherever you find a podcast and your Duke downloads. Good for him, and nice interview with my buddy Greg, which we'll have soon too, but congratulations to him. Want to get that out there. What else do you have, my friend?
I mean, the last thing, and this is somewhat self-serving, so I hope everybody forgives me. Jonathan Bailey, star of Wicked for Good and the sexiest man alive, the first openly gay sexiest man alive that People magazine has ever selected, elaborated this week on his favorite gay icons. Somebody asked him the question, and did you see this, Scott? Do you know who he picked?
I heard it and I forgot it, to be honest, but yes, I did. It's a
He
woman,
picked
isn't it? I'm trying to think.
he picked Bert and Ernie were his favorite gay icons.
That's right. I remember because he was just on Sesame Street dancing with them. I did hear that.
Yes, lucky him for one thing, but as the guy who outed Bert and Ernie years ago, I take special pride in hearing that he's a fan. And it's always nice to know. Bert and Ernie obviously mean a lot to me as a queer person, because I looked at them and sort of understood myself and understood what they were doing before I could actually articulate it, right? It's good to see they have that effect on other people and that it's still going, and that the people at Sesame Street are very comfortable with them being sort of codified as queer and accepted as gay icons. So that's very encouraging to me as well.
I love that. I did read that, but I forgot about it. So I'm glad you brought that up. I have 2 small things that I'll close on here and then see if there's anything else you have. I saw in the trades today, and I'm kind of excited. Speaking of Jonathan Bailey and the whole Bridgerton of him all, where he kind of got his start, the original Bridgerton, which starred Regé-Jean Page, the Black aristocrat from Bridgerton, he is going to be starring and executive producing a new series called Hancock Park, which sounds very interesting. It's supposed to be, it's kind of described as an erotic thriller series. It's a member of Los Angeles high society that gets kind of thrown in this guy, ends up staying in someone's guest house, and the society starts to crumble around his. It sounds very intriguing, and I'm excited. It's being written by someone that I'm a huge fan of, Matthew Barry. He wrote, he's openly queer writer. He's written The Guest and Industry and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so he writes gay well. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that show coming up. So I just did read that, and I'm looking forward to that. And then I did show, you got to meet, and we were treated very nice. My time out there last summer by Hervé Levy at the Magic Castle, the general manager of Magic Castle. He is on the board of Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and they welcomed Sarah Paulson for their 2000-something star yesterday, and had. So it's nice to have an openly queer star again on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that Hervé got to vote on, and Holland Taylor's talked about it, and Ryan Murphy talked about Sarah and everything. That was kind of an exciting little piece of trivia as well. That's all I've got, my friend. Anything else to finish it up with on your end?
No, I think that's a great way to close it out today. Sarah Paulson's one of our best actors of any gender, of any sexuality, and I could watch her in just about anything, though I don't know about that new Ryan Murphy show about the lawyers, All's Fair, which is apparently, so god-awful. Though they did get a season 2 renewal, apparently, because people are hate watching it. Good for them, I guess. I love Sarah Paulson. I think she's still criminally underrated, and so good for her. That star is well earned.
There you go. Well, guys, we appreciate you tuning in every week to Entertainment Exposed right here with David Reddish on Left of Straight Podcast. We appreciate you giving us a follow and a like over on YouTube or Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your favorite podcast listening to. We are accepting sponsors now. If you're interested in sponsoring, if you have anything to do with entertainment, would like us to talk about on our show or run a little commercial, be sure to let us know. You can get in contact with us on our Instagram, or you can email scott@leftofstraight.com. But David, remind everyone where your Instagram handle is, please.
The Gay Magneto, all one word.
There you go. We appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic holiday season. We'll be back next Wednesday live, next Friday tape with an all new episode of Entertainment Exposed. Have a great week, everyone.